Hello, everybody. I'm very excited to presenting here in this session and having the chance to raise the awareness of the indoor air quality. A little bit about my background. I started my career in Tokyo in 2000, was in charge of the new construction of the German embassy. And at the time when the occupants moved in, they started to complain about headaches and nausea until really the German government decided to make an indoor air quality test. And it turned out that the air wasn't too bad, but there were bounded fibers in the ceilings materials, and they decided to remove it. And here the battle started, who pays for that removal? And I got a document from the German government saying that these materials are really causing cancer and turn our DNA a little bit and make us infertile. And I thought, that's really creepy. The German government knows it and send us this document knowing that they're existing, but they don't prevent it in the first place. Just wait until somebody complains. And I think that really should be a norm, especially when the government knows that. Then we moved to Shanghai. I worked mainly for the MMOSA, workplace consultancy company. And here at that time, many American clients opened up their Asian Pacific headquarters, and knowing that Shanghai outdoor air is really bad, they wanted to make sure that the indoor at least are good and the environment for their employees are okay. And at that time, LEED commercial interior came up, and they all wanted to have that certifications, and we started really to look for the right materials in order to make sure that the indoor air quality is fine, which was quite a hassle at that time, 2005. Then we moved to Madrid in 2010, and here it was already this kind of sustainable materials were very common already, but still healthy materials was coming up, but not yet here issue. And finally, in 2016, we moved to Zurich, and I thought, actually, this is an old topic after 16 years. But when I walked into the first construction site, and I asked just out of curiosity the contractors, okay, what kind of glue are you using? How about the furniture you bring in? And they said, yeah, that's everything okay. And I said, well, are you sure? Have you ever looked in the ingredients? I said, no. And I thought, this can't be. After 60 years, it's still not the awareness there to look into the materials and the products you bring into your space. So what is about the well-being or the indoor environment quality? There, for me, are three intangibles. One is the light. We know if the light is not correct, we are not really productive, we get sleepy. Noise interrupting us, so we are not productive, and it turns out to be really stressful for us and has also health impacts. But both are actually regulated. There are norms already in place. But about the air, the indoor air, there are kind of guidelines, but this is no regulation that here. So for me, it's really the third intangible item we have to very carefully take care in the design process. Now, what is in the air we have to look at? We know about the carbon dioxide. This is the first issue of indoor air quality since we build airtight buildings. The CO2 can significantly impact productivity and decision-making capabilities. It becomes now best practice to install CO2 sensors in spaces to control the mechanical ventilation, or just indicates when we have to open the windows. The other thing is dampness and mold. We know as well they are associated with respiratory symptoms, allergies, and asthma. And a good architecture practice and correct use of the spaces and its ventilation, it's actually of public health. So that's nothing new to us. What I want to focus on are the unknown pollutant, the two particle matter and VOCs. Particle matter, and the 2.5 stands for the size of microns. They actually can penetrate our lungs barrier and enter into the blood system. And according to the Forum of International Respiratory Society, as at the University of Illinois, air pollution may be damaging really every organ and virtually every cell in the human body. So chronic exposure to particles contributes to, that's a significant scientific proof, to risk of developing cardiovascular and respiratory diseases as well as of lung cancer. It's mainly imported by the outdoor air traveling through the fresh air supply by the HVAC systems. But also we produce PM 2.5 by walking on the floor or scrubbing on the furniture, etc. The other pollutant is the VOC. VOC stands for volatile organic compounds and are a class of organic chemicals, which include formaldehyde, toluene, benzene as the most harmful ones, out of 900 other chemicals. And it is important to note that while certain VOCs can negatively affect health, others are benign. And it's a class of organic chemicals that emit at room temperature, this so-called off-gassing. And the problem is that we cannot smell it and we cannot see it. Now, where we can find these VOCs are very common in building materials. Glues, paints, particle boards, and if there are particle boards, of course, in furniture, carpet backing, actually in anything you install or bring into your space. Now, it's not only about the health, it really affects also our productivity. As the Harvard University School of Public Health and Global Environment did a double-blind study and evaluated the cognitive performance of 24 participants who experienced condition in a laboratory setting that simulates those found in conventional and green buildings, as well as green buildings with enhanced ventilation. So they measured cognitive functions such as orientation, crisis response, information seeking, and strategic thinking, and etc. And among the findings are, on average, cognitive scores were 61% higher in green building conditions and 101% higher in enhanced green building conditions compared to conventional environment. So CO2s and VOCs, that's were the two metrics they measured, and ventilation rate all had a significant and independent impacts on cognitive functions. So let's stay with the ventilation system. Of course, ventilation means bringing fresh air in from the outside, which we call more like dilution is the solution of the pollution. And you really depend on the outdoor air, where your location is, your office is. So you have also sometimes to add filtrations in order to get rid of the particles, which again raises the energy consumption. Here I show a very nice graph I like very much because it is about the, let's say, the flash out time for the building certifications you can ask for. And they do this test right after the flash out time. You can see this at the bottom line here as a flash out time. And when you do kind of one test, it's fine. But as soon as you close the windows and set up the ventilation system on a normal use, you can see this is a 0 hour and 0 hour. So this is 1 day at the bottom line. And here on the left-hand side is the TVOC amount. You can see during night, when the HVAC system is off, you start up climbing with the VOCs. And during the office hours, when the HVAC system is on, it goes down. So here you can see even climbing up, and even in 6 days, it's higher than we cannot even track it. So conclusion is really don't do overtime in the office building. It's really literally unhealthy. So HVAC system does a good job, but still is not the 100% solution. The other solution is the living machines, as we call them. They don't need energy. They need good maintenance and water, of course. And there was a nice study by NASA in 1960s. They checked how much air or how much plants we need in order to survive in a harsh environment without oxygen. And they found out that we need 8 plants per person. So if you have 8 plants per person in your office, you can live without a ventilation system and an airtight building. And interesting is that the plants not only produce CO2, they also purify our air and can take out VOCs and the particles. And it's not the leaves, which are really the workhorse behind that. They are the roots pushing now their innovation, launching by pushing the air through the root system, which are really faster by purifying and blowing the air back into the clean air back into the space. So please watch out for any new invention here. There are very nice things coming up. The last solution will be just don't bring in the pollutant. It's a so-called source control. It sounds easy, but is more difficult than we actually expected, because vetting materials takes still a long, long time. The reason is that the manufacturers are not used to show what kind of ingredients they use and what kind of chemicals. So asking them, it takes long, long time until they have this information for you. The other solution is, or helping to find the right materials, are product certifications, and there are many, many around already, mainly looking for sustainability, but also ones which focus on low chemical emission. And as you can see here, one is to mention, for example, the Cradle to Cradle is a very holistic one, which also looks into the material reutilization, water stewardship, social fairness, and in general the material, and especially about the health, if the material is healthy at the end. Others are to mention, for example, here Floor Score, GUT, they are specifically for floorings. Level is very interesting there, especially for furniture, office furnitures. So many are around and they're popping up more, which makes it very difficult for the planner and for the manufacturers to choose the right one and knowing what is behind and what they really test. And of course, they're expensive and you have to reevaluate it every year, so or annually or a certain period. So it's a good choice to start with, but not also the final solution. The other possibilities to simplify, let's say, or make it easier to find healthy materials are the product data platforms. They are also coming up more and more. Started with Origin. They have really the biggest material data platform showing healthy materials based on this other mindful materials. Building Material Scout from Drees Sommer is also well equipped. And all of these are really independent. Only this spot is produced or done by certified UL, but they open now as well their data platform. And as well as you can go back to all the other certifiers and look at their website, all the certified products they have on the website, but as just limited to their certification. Another solution is just go for an indoor environment certification, which the big ones are the LEED, of course, LEED building certification, and BREEAM and DGNB, the German one. All three of them, they have also for the interior environmental certification, specified especially about the well-being of the occupant, of course, Well from the US and Fitwell. And there's one really to mention is Reset. Reset is actually based on sensor-based and performance-driven indoor air quality building standard. It requires continuous monitoring so that the data can be communicated to the project occupants through mobile devices or any visual displays. And they monitor particular matter, TVOCs, CO2, humidity, and temperature. So there are no prescribed path or checklist. There's only one target, the environmental health, starting with the project, the people, and the indoor air quality. The path is yours to choose and yours to innovate. Only result matters. And it also blends in very well into other building certifications such as LEED and WELL. And now, actually, talking about the COVID pandemic, the RESET team now studies scientific literature and sensor data in order to get a real-time score. Because now building owners are questioning, how can I provide my occupants or my landlords, the users, a healthy environment and prove that. So with the current technology, it's actually not possible to monitor airborne concentration of SARS in real time, but it is possible to monitor the parameters and that influences infection, like temperature, humidity, particle matters, occupant density, and CO2. So the approach uses the data to estimate the potential for aerosol-based viral transmission in indoors, leveraging real-time data to generate a real-time index. Nevertheless, of course, the index does not replace the best practice such as mask, but it provides a structure and a strategy for optimizing building systems to deliver an air that minimizes the chances of aerosol viral transmissions. And you can see here you have the virus health. They look into how strong the virus is, how long it can survive, your immune system health, how strong are you, and then the dosage, of course. So all three items makes out of them an infection potential. And this is the way it could look like. You have on the left-hand side the real-time temperature, humidity, rolling average over days, the CO2 on the real-time, and particle matters on rolling average of months. Then you have the RESET air index optimized for human health. And then on the top of it, new exactly here, aerosol infection potential, like for example, 1%, and certainty of how you can be affected. And there's one really interesting story I crossed by recently with the International Olympic Committee. They built their new headquarters and moved in last year, and I had the chance to be part of this process. And they got for LEED Platinum. That means you have to fulfill actually all points of LEED, which means you cannot avoid any. And there's the material and resource credit, as well as the indoor environment credits, which are very, very difficult to fulfill. And now actually LEED simplified these two credits, because they noticed all or many of the LEED projects just trying to avoid them. And they noticed that the market is not there yet for the materials. So they simplified it in the sense that you can go via platforms in order to select your materials to make it simpler for the project owners. However, the IOC didn't have that option and had to walk through really all the material checking. And it turned out to have that they had a choice of furnitures, and they liked them all, but none of them had the certification to prove it, that it's healthy. So the IOC insisted in saying, okay, we want your furniture, but just make sure and prove that it's healthy. And the company started really to send their products into chambers, check if the off-gassing is in the right limits, and many of them noticed it's not okay, it's over the requested limits. And they were all really, really surprised and started to tweak their products, changing the paint, for example, and the glues, and especially the particle boards, and it made them aware that their products are not okay. Then they came back to the IOC and said, look, we have at least the tests, and they could sell the product to IOC. So I think that's a very nice showcase telling, okay, we as a client or as a planner have to push the market in order to get really healthy materials. And as the same as we pick our food and water, we are supposed to drink 3 liters of water per day. And we are very picky in choosing it because we know that there are unhealthy ingredients in there. In the same way, actually, should do it for the air, because we breathe 15,000 liters of air per day. So please do care what you breathe. Thank you very much.